You got questions? Well, we have the man to answer those questions, Jeffrey Levine from Buckingham. Jeffrey, welcome back to another episode of Ask the Hammer.
Good to be with you. Looking forward to another question.
Oh, it's a good one. I have a
All
friend.
right.
Here it goes. I have a friend who is currently employed with a company making around $300,000 a year and is maxing out his 401k contributions. He also just started a side gig where he expects to make around 100K. It's my understanding that if he cannot defer more income via employee contributions, but the business could contribute up to 25% of wages in a retirement account. What say you?
All right. So we've got a couple things going on here, but what it sounds like is we've got someone who's successful, who's going to have multiple jobs, and they're looking to sock away as much as they can for retirement, right? This is one of those fortunate individuals who says, I actually have more than I need right now, and I have so much more than I need that I want to be able to put away as much as possible. So the first thing we need to do is understand that there are multiple employers here. And it sounds like one is a regular job, if you will, like his regular 9 to 5 at some other company where he gets a salary and he's either not an owner or doesn't own a majority of it, right? He's just a regular worker, if you will, right? Then the other one is his quote unquote side hustle, where maybe it's the same thing he does, but he does it for himself as a consultant on the side, whatever have you. The key point here, Bob, is that these are unrelated, what's known as unrelated employers. In other words, they don't have the same ownership or substantially the same ownership. And when that's the case, we can have separate plans established for each business, and the overall limit is not combined for them. Now, let's take a step back here. What is the overall limit? Well, a lot of people know that when they're looking to put money into a 401k or whatnot, there's a limit on how much of their salary they can defer each year. But there's a second limit for such plans called the overall limit. So there's two limits each year for a plan like that. There's how much salary can you defer of your own wages, if you will, and how much can you put in total into the plan. So each year there's those two limits. I'm going to make these numbers up. They're about this much, but I just want to use round numbers. Let's say you can put $25,000 of wages in for the year, and you can put a total of $70,000 into the plan. Well, if you put $25,000 in, the question is, how do you get to 70, right? Well, in large part, it's like your employer is very generous and they contribute for you, either through profit sharing or matching contributions, etc. So let's say this particular individual puts their $25,000 of salary deferrals, hypothetically. Again, I know that's not the exact amount, but we put that amount in, and let's say the employer matches another, $20,000. Okay, well, that's one plan. That's the regular job. The question that is being asked is, what can I do separately if I open up my own retirement plan for my own side hustle? Now, even though the businesses are unrelated, that salary deferral maximum, that total that you can put into a 401k, a 403b, or similar plan each year, is what's known as coordinated, meaning you can't put more than that maximum in, no matter how many different 401ks, 403bs you have. It's all one limit. But that overall limit, right, where I gave a hypothetical $70,000 amount, that overall limit, that is not combined between the plans. So if this individual had $100,000 of profit, they may be able to put another $20,000 or $25,000 or so away in the form of a profit sharing or a Sep contribution. Now, there's one more thing to keep in mind here, and that's depending upon the structure of this side hustle and how much, let's say, wages or profit are generated out of the side hustle will determine what sort of contribution can be made to the plan. So, for instance, if this side hustle is created as a sole proprietorship, then the amount that can be contributed, the profit sharing component, is based on the net profit of the business. And you have to make some adjustments in there for things like self-employment taxes, etc. By contrast, if that business is set up as an S corporation, which a lot of small businesses are, then it's a maximum of 25% of the wages that that person pays. So if they have $100,000 that they make, but they only pay themselves, let's say, $60,000, and the other 40 comes as profit, Well, the maximum that could go into that plan as a profit sharing contribution would be 25% times the $60,000 of wages they paid themselves. So there's a lot of moving parts here. This is one of the more complicated aspects of retirement planning, but it's also quickly becoming one of the more common questions that we receive because so many people today are engaged in the so-called gig economy as a side hustle or second job.
Yeah. So if in terms of choosing which retirement account, do you have a preference for a SEP or a solo 401k when it comes to these kinds of contributions?
I sure do. I definitely have a preference, but I don't know what's going to be best for this person at this point in
Right.
time, right? Because the question comes down to what are you trying to do? Are you trying to maximize the amount you can get into the plan? Are you trying to keep things simple? It could actually even go back to a question regarding their regular plan. For instance, their regular job, are they getting a match on that full salary deferral? If not, they may actually want to make salary deferrals to their own 401k because maybe they like their own investment choices better. So it could depend upon whether they need to defer salary or whether they just need profit sharing. Certainly, setting up a Sep IRA is typically the simplest possible option for business owners like that, but it may not allow them to achieve maximum tax savings. So you really got to look at it on a case-by-case scenario.
Yeah. And then with the solo 401k, there are two forms of contribution, right? There would be the employee contribution and then the employer contribution. And
That's
is
right.
there,
You could set it up so that you are, and it's a little bit weird because if it's a solo, you're kind of both
oh,
sides, right? You are both the employee and the employer, but how much you can put in on each side is determined by different rules. You also, as a 401k, could have other options. You could start making Roth contributions if you wanted. You could make after-tax contributions. So there's lots of other things. If you're really trying to maximize retirement savings, a 401k can often allow you to do that in a superior fashion until you have a lot of profit. You know, if a person has $500,000 of profit for the year, doesn't matter. They can get the same amount into a Sep IRA as they could to a 401k. But with more modest profits, like in this example, then it's often easier to get more money into the plan with a 401k than it is a Sep. But the 401k comes with more compliance and oversight. There may be additional record keeping costs. So it's like everything else, Bob. It's a balancing act, right? Like here are the benefits, here are the drawbacks. Mr. Client, you know, what is more important to you in this particular situation?
yeah. So I think there are no drawbacks in people writing to us, only benefits.
One would hope so. And if you'd like that benefit, you can give us a shout. Email us at askthehammer@buckinghamgroup.com. Again, that's askthehammer@buckinghamgroup.com. And that is the only place you need to go to make a contribution to our inbox. We'll see your question there.